Only a child when his father, targeted by the Mafia, appeared to him the morning of his own death, and again that night in spirit. He's lived with the paranormal ever since, from haunted cottages and spectral children to a doppelganger of his own living son appearing in his home. Now he's using music, technology, and science to reach into the unknown and shine a light on the other side. Musician, inventor, and experiencer Mark Lanoue joins me with stories that will chill your spine and touch your soul. We cover that next right here on the very best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is my Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney. He won't float. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. It's me, your minty-mouthed MC, Dave Schrader, here with Zellmans. Remember, they're our new sponsor. Go check them out. Zellmans.com. That's ZELMINS.com/P60. Save 15% off of your very first purchase. You're going to thank me. You'll love them. I know I do. All right, welcome to the program. Let's get started, shall we? I'm excited to have this guy join us because not only is he remarkable in all other aspects, but he's been a longtime follower and friend of this program. Mark Lanoue is an accomplished musician. He is an innovator. He is a lifelong experiencer of the paranormal, from personal tragedy and spectral encounters to cutting-edge paranormal tech that he is developing. Mark's journey is an extraordinary as it is emotional. And he's here with us, willing to open up to talk to you, our audience, and all of you around the world tonight about his own work that spans not just stages and studios, but also the unseen spaces between this world and the next. Help me welcome back to the Paranormal 60, Mark Lanoue. Mark, good evening. Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Dave?
Doing good, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. We have a really nice group of listeners around the world. My army of darklings, and we do a lot with prayer and intention requests. And I know you're here tonight to join us, and not under the best conditions. But if you'd like to just let us know a little bit about what's going on, so that way we can, have all of our listeners, prayer warriors, energy workers, and healers kind of tune in for this.
Sure. So my wife is in the hospital right now. I came back over here to take care of the pooches here and get on here. But she had open heart surgery Friday morning. She came through it really, really well. Her kidney shut down for a while, so they right now have her on dialysis to get her back up to speed and kind of wake the kidneys up. That's happened before with other people who've had heart surgery. So if everybody could just pray for her to be healed soon and get back to her children, their four-legged ones and the two-legged ones, and get back to regular life, that would be great.
Fantastic. So you've heard it here. Prayers, healings, energy. We need it worked out. I'll tell you what, Mark, I thought hoping to switch you over to the phone, we'd get a better audio, but we're actually getting really choppy reverb. So I'll take you off of this. Just sign back in on your computer and we'll pick up from there. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, the best laid plans of mice and men, my friends. You prepare things and they don't always go your way. We're going to get Mark back on and talk with him. I do want to make a couple of quick mentions. I promised you that if you tuned in tonight, you would be among the first to hear some cool news, right? Well, we're all aware of Paranormal Mysteries, the new TV program that I'm a part of with Shane Pittman and Cindy Kaza. That will begin airing later on this fall on Beacon TV. Well, are you ready for this? This Wednesday, you'll be able to go to our website at darknessevents.com and join us for the first ever Paranormal Mysteries event featuring the cast of the Holzer Files at the Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota, August 15th through the 17th. It is going to be a weekend filled with fun, Lots of great conversations, insights into all of the shows we've been a part of, from the Holzer Files to 28 Days Haunted to the Ghosts of Devil's Perch and beyond. And we're hoping to be able to bring you a sneak peek into our brand new series, The Paranormal Mysteries. This is the only event that you'll see all three of us together this year in 2025. So we hope you'll consider coming out and joining us. Tickets go on sale Wednesday. So make sure you mark it, darknessevents.com. Check on Wednesday. Make sure that you order the tickets. We are keeping it to the first 60 people. We want this to be a smaller, intimate event. We're going to have a lot of fun. Plus, there will be a gallery session from Cindy Kaza. So I hope that you'll all check that out and join us, be a part of that program. All right, we've got Mark Lanoue back with us on the line. Mark, let's get started, because this is great. Obviously, you and I talk off air and between chat and texts and such, and you've always got these remarkable stories to share. And I said, hold on to them, brother. Why don't you just come on the show and let the audience hear it? Many of them are familiar with you because you're always popping up in our chats and hanging out, and you're one of the great contributors to this. Plus, you've given us some excellent music that we've been able to share on this program. And you've got a demo. This is a brand new breaking demo. As a matter of fact, it's not even its final mix, but you're letting us share it tonight. Another paranormal theme tune. So we'll play that in a little bit. But the story with your father and the Mafia. Wow. Let's what a way to introduce this segment. So let's begin there if we could, Mark.
Sure. So my father was in and out of trouble. He was actually when he was 15, he joined Hell's Angels, of all things. And so back then, bikers ended up kind of becoming affiliated a lot of times with the Mafia, because the gangs were kind of like the security of things. So he got involved with, of all things, the Colombo crime family, which is one of the big ones out of the tri-state area. And he mainly dealt with stolen goods across state lines and things like that. And his front was an auto body shop. Back then they had fronts, so they may have a pizza shop or a record store or whatever. His was an auto mechanic shop. And so he just knew too much. It's kind of that typical story in the Mafia. He knew too much. He knew too much about what was going on with the FBI, what was going on with the Mafia, what was going on with the judges, etc. And they tried to take him down actually twice by running him over, the typical movie cast, in the alleyway with the car. So the second time he didn't jump out of the way, he slipped on the ice because it's New Jersey, it was wintertime, and they rode over his ankle. So I remember him, hobbling around on crutches for a while. But the way they got him was they got his best friend to pick him up in the morning for work. And he said, hey, let's stop over here. I got to take care of some business. And when they went over there, the door opened up, gun was drawn, and just blew him away right there.
Wow.
in the front there. And
how old were you at this point, Mark?
I was 10 at the time. And,
now, were you aware of what your father's involvement was?
Yeah, he tried to keep us out of it, but even people don't think about the fact that kids are smarter than you think. I mean, we figure it out. I mean, like, he took me one time because he didn't have any time. He took me to, I believe it was Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. It might have been Queens, but he took me to one of the locations because he just didn't have time to take me home. And I'm walking up to the garage. Him and a buddy walks in the garage, and I smell paint. And I look up, it's the 70s. There's a van in there with a big airbrush painting of the wizard on the side,
Right.
And a fresh smell of paint. And my father's handing him a CB radio. And the first thing a 10-year-old thinks is, that's a stolen vehicle. They just painted it. And that's a hot CB radio my father is handing. So you pretty much figure it out. And it was almost like I was in a movie, because after he was gunned down, what they typically do in the Mafia is they try to groom the next, ones about. So they used to, my name's Mark, but they used to call me Little Ricky. Hey, Little Ricky. Huh? So because my father's name was Richard, they called him Ricky. And they had these two characters. These were their nicknames, Mario and Frenchie. And it was the funniest thing. Frenchie was this big bald guy with a big gold chain with the white T-shirt they called the wife beaters,
right?
And then the other one was I think he was Mexican or Cuban by descent, and he had like the jumper suit for auto body on and everything.
Sure.
It was hilarious. But they used to give me a bag, rolled up paper bag, And they would say, I want you to take this down here to this store. Don't look in the bag. No, you take it down to the store, you bring it up there, and you come back over here, and we'll give you more work to do. So they kind of groom you. And so 1977, 10 years old, I was making $7 an hour. And so that was pretty good money back in the day. But
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of my Mafia story. There's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the crux of it.
Well, let's talk about that moment, because obviously that's a pretty big indoctrination into the paranormal, right? Your father loses his life, sadly. And how are you alerted to this death?
Well, I was sensitive even from when I can remember being really little. There's plenty of stories to go about and go through. But my father, that morning, he told me before he was leaving that day, he sat me down, he gave me you're the man of the house, if anything happens to me story, the whole thing. And he kept saying, don't worry, we're going to be going to California. Apparently we were about to go into the witness protection program. I didn't know it at the time. And so when he was killed, when he came to me, and this happens sometimes in dreams, and then it kind of converted more to lucid perspective.
Right.
But he came to me as the coffin showing up in the front living room. It opened up, and there he was. He came out, and he basically went through like life with me, the little times that he spent with me, like fishing and all that kind of stuff. He told me I had to watch over my mother, a lot of the typical things. And he said, I'm okay. It's done. I'm on my way. And matter of fact, I wrote the song Promised Land for Fiction 6 is about that whole story about him meeting God and saying, hey, can I come into your promised land? All that kind of stuff. But anyway, at the end of it, he climbed into the coffin. The winds blew. He turned to dust. The lid closed. And that was the last time, really, that was the last time that I saw him in that.
Now, when you woke up from that, was it just a dream to you until you got the news about your dad, or did you know?
No, I knew, because I've had, from very, very small, I've had both the events of being awake, having lucid, events, having what they call sleep paralysis. But I knew in those cases, I knew better. It wasn't quite sleep paralysis. It was something different. You can kind of feel it. It's just different. But yeah, I knew it was him. You get that, you get that clue that it's actually a person. You can actually feel it. Some people can, some people can't, but you can actually feel when like something's malicious or something is not. It's an empathetic kind of feeling,
So he made his presence to you known, said his goodbyes, helped you relive some of the happy moments together. You wake up. Did you go talk to your mom or talk to anybody about what you had just encountered?
No, because, especially back then, I come from a Christian family. I was the firstborn in the United States. I came from your diehard Protestant coming from overseas. You're seeing demons. If you're seeing ghosts, you're seeing demons, so that's kind of the way it was. Now that we're older and my mother's older, sure, I've shared that with her, and it's a lot easier to share those perspectives when you get older, because there's two things that happen. One is you don't care whether they accept it or not anymore because you're older. It's like, well, if you don't want to accept it, just too bad. It happened to me. Get over it, But it didn't happen that way. She actually accepted it quite well, and I was happy about that. So,
when you get the confirmation that this is real, what was that like? I mean, how was that a shift in your life where you've had this dream, that there's something more to it, but what's it like to actually hear the words, then he's gone?
It was hard for quite a while. And it's kind of funny. They say that the boy usually attaches more to the mother and the girl usually to the father. But in this case, since he didn't spend a whole lot of time with me because he was always in trouble, he spent time in Rikers Island. He spent time in a place called Galway State Prison. At the time, it was like one of the worst prisons in the United States. And but the few times the small amounts of times I did spend with him, he was a wonderful human being, and he really loved his children, and we had some really good fun, and did the father-son thing a number of times with motorcycles and fishing and all that kind of stuff. So,
was there any kind of, I don't know what the right term would be in this case. I would say survivor's guilt. I know that doesn't necessarily fit this, but some people that have that premonition, that visitation, and then get the corroboration that the death took place are sometimes left with this. I wish I could have done something. Why did I get to know this before I found out? Could I have done something to change this? Did that ever happen to you?
No, I think there's different perspectives from people. If somebody has always kind of had that sensitive part, I mean, when you see spirits when you're really, really small, and you see shadows when you're really, really small, and you feel all those things, and it happens a lot of times, after a while, you kind of get used to the fact that there's stuff swirling around you, and there's nothing really that you can do about it. And even if you're that young, after a while, you start to absorb that, and you start to put together that this is the way things are. And plus, I had a strong faith in God. I mean, I was going to church since I was a really little kid, as an infant. As a matter of fact, with my grandmother, she was my rock. You know, so I knew that, you know, there's God, there's demons, there's, you know, all these things that exist around us. And then, you know, of course, as I got older and got more into science and things, and the things that I felt, I knew there's dimensionality, there's all kinds of stuff. So. But I don't know if that answers your question completely, but it's a different perspective when you've had more of that stuff happen to you than if it just kind of falls in your lap and you go, oh, what do I do with this? You know, so.
Did your family have psychic abilities or, you know, sensitivities?
I think I found later on that my mother may have had some sensitivity. The one who had it a lot more than me was one of my children, and won't throw them out there on the, but was very highly sensitive, especially as a child. And I would probably say even more so than I was. And I was pretty freaking over the cliff. So
now is that kind of your first real start with realization of the supernatural, or had it slowly trickled throughout your life up to that point?
It slowly trickled throughout my life. I think I told you the story one time about me being of all things, I was in the Catholic Church, or actually in the school part of it. I was going to a church, going to a school called St. Teresa's, or as they say in New York, New Jersey, St. Teresa's. But the reason a lot of us went to those kind of schools is because they were safer. They were locked down. They were private. You know, you weren't in the public school system getting your butt handed to you every time you went to school.
Right.
But I told you about that encounter with what I knew to be a demon in the hallway when I looked up and saw that. And there's no denying that feeling, and there's no denying that look of, I want to eat your face off. You know, and so.
Well, for listeners that maybe didn't hear that first time you stopped by to tell a story, why don't you? I mean, that's a crazy tale. Why don't you share that?
Yeah. So I was walking through the hallway, and it was very bright outside. The sunlight was coming through the window, and I was walking down, and I looked up. You know, they had those stairs. You know, you go up a set of steps, and then you have like a platform, and then you have another set of steps that goes up to the other second level of the school. Well, up on the first level there, up the stairs, I looked up, and there was a being standing there. It looked like an angel from the ground up to the shoulders. It had, you know, the white wings and had the white gown and everything all bright and shiny. And then I looked up at its face, and I was like, that's no angel. Maybe a fallen one, but that's
right.
Not the pristine, happy angel. Plus, you could feel it. Another part of the sensitivity is I can feel when something's malevolent or when something's not. And in this case, it was very malevolent, but I always believed in faith that they couldn't come near me and touch me unless I invited them over. Mm-hmm. And in this case, that was it. It was at a distance. It was looking at me like it wanted to get close enough to, you know, chew me down to nothing. But just looked at me really intensely mean. And then it felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably seconds, and it went away. So it's, that was, you know, I've had encounters like that. I've seen shadows as a really little kid. I used to have horrible nightmares, you know, things like that. So that stuff's been happening, you know, throughout my life. It became a little less intense as I got older because you learn to deal with the what I call the shutters. You know, you shut it out. You figure out ways to keep it at bay. poke in every now and then, but it's like, nope, stay away. So, yeah, so that kind of stuff.
Well, you are a musician. You're also, you need to brag about this again, because again, people that don't know this, okay, so they've just heard about your mafia tied father, the sad tragic ending of his life, that you were then groomed kind of by the mob to maybe step in and start doing some stuff of your own. You've got the beard, the rock and roll attitude. You're a musician, but what people don't realize is you also are an inventor. You're an innovator, and you hold a pretty interesting distinction that a lot of people, again, you can't judge a book by its cover. Let them know what you have to do with NASA.
Yeah, so I was with NASA for about 9 years. It was with a group called the Institute for Technology Development. Went through 3 phases. One was human exploration and development of space. The other one was NASA commercial space, and then something called Moon to Mars, long-term space flight. It was research centers. And while I was with that, I was one of the inventors, or a team that invented a type of hyperspectral imaging system. It splits the electromagnetic spectrum up into small little pieces and allows you to kind of look at it and read it and come up with an analytics to, create other applications with it. And I even had a manifest to put it on the space station in the Wharf window at one point, until the second disaster in the shuttle that kind of wipes all the manifests clean. So didn't get to put it up there, but I did invent that along with them. I then was inducted into the NASA Space Technology Hall of Fame in 2005. I actually had an astronaut and a general next to me that handed me this honker of a medal that, if nothing else, if somebody breaks in the house, they're not getting very far, because that thing can take you right out in about 2 seconds. But it's pretty cool. It's got like the seals on the front, and you flip it around. It's all brass. It's got my name on it, and the induction, the year of the induction, and
that's awesome.
Hyperspectral technology. But I invented that technology, and then built about 72 of them around the world. I built a lab for FBI in Quantico. It was about a $1.8 million lab, and trained some of their people to use the technology there. Did a couple publications with them, the chemists at the FBI. And then I also built one for King Abdullah in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It was about a $2.8 million lab, which then spun off into much larger programs in hyperspectral in the kingdom. So
now you've taken everything that you've learned and you've turned it towards paranormal, understanding the paranormal, and trying to find a way to bridge that gap between this reality and what else is out there. I know that that's something you're still working on. Is there anything you can kind of tease to the audience about what you're building and how it's working?
Yeah, I can do it within the bounds of not giving away novelty, obviously, because before this, I actually worked in the intellectual property office too, and I think they were a little upset with me. So I work with senior design teams at the university, and I'm trying to change it over to new kind of things instead of most of the traditional stuff. So they usually pick my projects because they're out there. They're never like the traditional, look at the cells and put these 2 circuits together on this board over here, fab that, So this device, what I try to do with the paranormal is what's always gotten to me, especially understanding electromagnetics and audio and all these things that happen, vibration. We all vibrate, so there's all kinds of stuff going around in your environment. People running around with walkie-talkies, RF going everywhere. And I'm thinking, well, how do you know that's not just one of the devices setting something off? And that's the first thing a skeptic's going to ask. And so I like to correlate points together. I like to say, you want to get rid of all the interference, and then you want to correlate and extrapolate what's coming toward your objective, and then how you separate the outside environment from the more enclosed environment, and how to keep that controlled. Because if you have something that you're watching come up to your box, right? And it comes up to that area, and then it gets inside of that, or it's even in the area inside. You can separate the 2 areas, the outside and the inside, by making sure that you're protecting that area. And you can say, there's no way this is anything, there's something here, because you can't get interference here, and I'm seeing it on the outside coming too, and it's here. And there's no walkie-talkies or anything else setting this off. This is what it is. And then you correlate it to other points. You have sensors, and you use everything you can use anything from barometers to temperature differentials, thermal emissivity. You can use all kinds of things. But that's kind of what I'm doing, is trying to take that kind of technology and looking at all those questions that we ask and say, well, and then to say, no, you can't say this is fake. You can say that you don't know what's there, but there's something here, based on this correlation, the fact that you're not interfering with it. And that's really what a lot of the things I try to do with the devices, because that's the one thing that does bother me when I watch the programs in the past. It's like, how do you know that? It's like when something shakes on the table, right? How do we know that's not a focused energy hit of infrasound? You can't hear that. But
Right.
I mean, so, but if you're sitting there sensing it and it's not infrasound and nothing else is moving, and you're saying, well, it's got to be something because it's not being vibrated by sound.
So you're trying to figure out how to get it narrowed down to getting out the false positives.
Exactly.
Therefore, leaving the positive of whatever is left has to be something that will be out of our understanding.
Yeah, it's always based on linear correlation. We as humans are always going to have error factors as well. And we also have, whether it's spatial or audio or whatever, we always have these things that are interfered with by what we're thinking, because we want so much sometimes for it to be something, we just turned it into that. Right. But if you have that correlation, a linear correlation between something that's a known that is happening, and you have the same thing happening with something else, but then you get rid of the error rate, then that's what it is. There's something there. So that's kind of what I'm trying to reach for and trying to do with these devices.
Well, speaking of there's something there.
It's time now for Paratunes. Thank you very much.
All right, Mark, give us a little bit of background. What was the inspiration for this song, and introduce it if you would?
Yeah, so this one's kind of a little bit spooky for me because I wrote this before my wife had the troubles that she has right now. And this song is about somebody who is deeply and madly in love with someone. And, they've been with them their whole life. They're their soulmate, and they pass on. But they still feel them, and they still hear them, and they still smell their perfume, and all those things that, when you're here and you can't hold somebody, it can almost drive you crazy. So it's like, why are you here in my head? That kind of, thing. And when this happened to her, I actually almost lost her in January. The doctors actually gave me the speech. The nurses prepare to lose your wife. And so, in this, you'll see that I utilize that whole perspective of my wife and myself, and through this. So this is going to be my first solo release. This one's not Kick the Wicked, and it's not Fiction 6. It's actually going to be on a solo album I'm putting together. So in this perspective, I'm playing all the guitars except for a 12-string, and I'm playing the leads, and I'm doing all the vocals. So.
Very cool. Now, again, folks, this is just a demo. He let me hear it, and I said, let's play the demo, dude. It's always cool to hear it. And then when you've got it all tweaked and finalized and mixed down, we'll play it again on the show so they can hear the completed version. What's the name of the song, Mark?
So straight off my laptop, it's Whispers Still.
That is a new song that will be on Mark Lanoue's first solo album. And once he's mixed it down and even tightened it up and honed it, I'm sure we'll get to hear that and some of the other great music that he's presenting. And as a longtime friend and follower and fan of the genre of the paranormal in this show, Mark, I also want to take just a moment. We started off with a prayer and healing request for your lovely wife and for you. I'd also like to dedicate today's show, if I could, to a longtime friend and follower who we lost this last week, Nina Johnson, my captain, good friend, her and her husband, Jeff, and their lovely children, Sarah Rose and Ben, who have attended many of the events and have traveled with us and made us a part of their life. She lost her life. The only thing that we're comforted by is that she's no longer in the pain and misery that she's been in for so long. So this episode goes out to you, Captain Nina. We love you, we miss you, and you will always be the general in my army of darkness. We'll be right back with more of the best in Paranormal Talk Radio right after this.
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello? Greetings from the Shadow, and welcome to Shadowzine. My name is Jeff Belanger. I'm an author, podcaster, and explorer of the unexplained. For 30 years, I've been investigating the paranormal, UFOs, monsters, and things that bump in the night. Lately, you may have noticed how major TV networks and even social media networks have been pushing our favorite subject back into the shadows. I say good. That's why I launched Shadowzine, a monthly underground publication that covers your favorite topics in depth by some of the leading writers and researchers out there. If you're looking for 30-second TikTok clips, go somewhere else. If you're ready for a deeper dive, put down your phone and pick up Shadowzine. You can't find it in stores. This is old school print. Head to shadowzine.com and be part of the underground revolution. That's shadowzine.com, and I'll see you in the shadow.
Hey, friends, remember I told you, you got to sponsor the people that sponsor us. Help them out, because these great sponsors help keep this show on the air and keep it free. I want to make sure that we mention our friends at Zellman's again. They're a brand new sponsor that has just stepped up with us. You can go check out their product at zellmans.com/P60 and save 15% off on your order. And if you're like me, you've faced all kinds of scary things in your life, but nothing's going to beat scary bad breath. Zellman's has the cure. This is amazing. What you do is you shake out 2 or 3 of these little mints, you put them in your mouth, immediately you're met with that beautiful, fresh, cooling breath. And then once the candy coating has come off, you just swallow them down. They're little gel caplets, and in each gel caplet is some oils. These oils work from the inside out. Therefore, they're going right to the root of most bad breath problems, which happens in your stomach. And these are gluten-free. You're going to absolutely love them. The results are fantastic. You do that, you got about 3 hours of really good breath to rely on. So if you're like me and you like all kinds of good food, but it always leaves you smelling a little weird, then you want to pick up Zellman's at zellmans.com, ZELMINS.com/P60. Save that 15%. All right, joining me again, Mark Lanoue is on the show with us. And another great song, Mark. I love that you allow the paranormal to breathe in these songs in a way that it's not beating you over the head, but looking at the context and the subtext of these, there's these beautiful narratives of the paranormal that are around us. And obviously through your life, you're an eyewitness to that. It's really not supernatural. It's natural. We just don't know how to always perceive it, or we ignore it because we want to make sense of it instead of try to just let it be.
That's right. I agree with that 100%.
So let's dive into some of the other strange experiences. I know you said you had a very weird experience at a cottage with a girlfriend. Start us up. Walk us through how you got to this cottage, what you knew about it before you went in, and what you knew about it when you left.
Well, so it's kind of like anything when you're a teenager. I didn't know a whole lot about it because that's where I was going to rent after I found a job.
Right.
So funny is that. So when I was 17, I'm back it up a little bit because it kind of moves to this. When I was 17, my mother gave me an ultimatum. I could do things her way or there's the door. Well, I thought the cooler thing would be to take the door. So anyway, after being homeless for a while, and walking the streets, I found a job of all places. It was a rock club. It was called the Cheyenne Social Club. It was right on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. So like the water was right in front of the Gulf of Mexico, and this 2-story awesome rockin' bar. And at the time, once I found the job, I just turned 18. You could drink when you're 18. You could go into the bars. Yes, I'm that old. So, but basically, I got a job there as because at the time I was in martial arts as well. So I was both a bar back and kind of secondary security. If I had to jump over the bar and take care of any problematic people that didn't want to leave or was, they were messing with the people there and staff. So, but anyway, long story short, I got a little cottage right behind that place. And it was, of course, I had several friends. We all moved in there. It was the typical little commune, of the teenagers. And so the first ones to go in there was myself and my girlfriend, now wife. That's how long we've been together. So, but we went into this cottage and felt it was kind of weird to begin with. It just had that kind of typical eerie feeling to it. And then so we stayed there that first night. I moved my stuff into that I had from my mother's house and a few other items that people gave me, and I put into the bedroom area. And we were sitting on one of the couches near the window. And she felt something grab her by the arm, and I actually felt her she was tugged. And she kind of went back like this and said, something just grabbed my arm and pulled me. Apparently was upset that we were sitting next to one another or whatever, and pulled her away. So that led into a number of crazy events in that house. Once everybody moved in, I actually saw the spirit at one point, and of all things, when I saw it, didn't have a face. And I've heard stories like that before, where the spirit is faceless. You can see the hair, you can see everything else. Couldn't see anatomy. It was actually not wearing clothes, but there was no anatomy. It was just no face, no anatomy, just there. And so everybody laughed at me, of course, in the house because I was telling them about it until somebody saw him. And then one night, there was one of the people that was in the house got in trouble, typical teenage trouble, and the police came by. And one of the police officers looked at the other and said, "Hey, isn't this the house that we unhung that guy from the closet? He had hung himself while his girlfriend was in the shower, and he hung himself in the other bedroom across from mine." And I was always wondering why I felt so strange in the shower. You know how you pull the shower curtain back? It's like, who the hell's looking at me?
Right.
Shower, right? And so I always had that crazy feeling. But all those things that happened in that house, that was just justification. It's like, there it is. That's what happened in this house, and that's who's been messing with me. Freaking weirdo. So anyway, so that's one of those stories. That was kind of that. And those cottages actually survived a storm of like 47. Then there was military people that lived in those cottages. It survived Camille. And then ultimately they were destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. But yeah,
it's interesting that you mentioned military people used them as well, Mark. And the only reason I mention that is I've spoken to a lot of military personnel at these events, and there are a lot of military people that will tell you that if they lived on base, a lot of on-base housing was very haunted,
I bet.
Crazy haunted. So much so their whole desire and goal was to get enough money to save up to move off base, where it was cheaper to live on base, but there was a reason, because you were sharing a room with many different souls, and it could be quite unnerving. So, all right. So your wife, actually, your girlfriend at the time, she had more of kind of a physical altercation, didn't she?
She had a physical altercation. I saw him, felt him around a lot. A couple of people in the place saw him, but I didn't really have anything where he pushed me or anything like that. But she actually felt him grab her arm. Yeah, it was pretty. That was a pretty crazy event. I've had several of those events like that were really.
But did
crazy.
she want? suddenly it goes from just maybe my cuckoo boyfriend is seeing things to something grabs you. How did that impact her?
Oh, she was just like, yeah, this just what we felt before. This is definitely, there's definitely something here. I mean, we felt there was something there, earlier, but there's a difference between that spirit that just hangs around, or what I call the traveling spirits. Some people believe in those, some people don't, but I do believe in the traveling spirits. And they show up. It's like, who the hell are you, and what are you doing here? So but in this case, this guy was anchored to this particular house, and for obvious reasons. But yeah.
Now, did you have to stay there much longer after she felt physically attacked?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was there for quite a while, and that's why we had all these events happening, and me seeing him, and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, that's the only place I had, and I worked like catty corner from there, so it was. That's kind of where I had to hang for a while until I found somewhere else to go. So.
Right. Well, everybody always says, well, if it's that haunted, I'd get out of there. These people are stupid for staying. Mark, why would you stay in a place that's this active and could physically, interact with your wife? And if you have to be away and working and that makes her the target, answer that kind of question for people. What's the mindset? How easy is it to just pick up and move?
Well, it's not easy to pick up and move, especially when you had been homeless and everything. But and you just got a job right there, and you were just kind of saving up some money. But it was a little easier for me because she was obviously she could go home. Her parents lived around the corner, and she could just go home. See, hope you have a good night hanging out with the with the spirit, but. I got to head out, So I didn't feel as bad. But I would say that if it were with my family, I would try to find ways to expel it from the house. And if it just was not going to go anywhere, I would find a way to get them out of there. You don't want anybody in your house to be affected. It's one thing when it's you. It's like, yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, okay, you hit me. And what am I going to do? If you hit one of my family members, I'm going to kill you. I mean, it's a kind of
too late.
Yeah, too late. Yeah. I call foul.
So when you moved out, was there ever a fear that this thing, whatever it was, might follow you?
That was always a fear of people, but because I've always been a sensitive, I probably would have felt right away. It's like, dude, stay there. I don't want you around me.
Did the haunting eventually fade for you and your wife, or did it continue on until you moved out?
It continued on, but mainly he was more of a pain in the behind. He would like do things like when that feeling when you open up a closet and somebody's staring at you like that.
Yeah,
he would do crap like that.
Wait a minute. Actually, let me say no, Mark. I don't know what it's like to open the closet and feel like somebody's staring at me. That made me sound really weird. Yeah, of course I know.
I think you probably experienced that before.
No,
Dave.
Mark.
You skeptic. But yeah, that's the kind of things that he would do. He would move stuff around. The typical, where are my keys? Damn well you put them there.
So it wasn't like he was malevolent. It was just more that he was mischievous and irritable.
Exactly. He wasn't doing anything that was malevolent. It was just, hey, I'm here. No, I'm here. I was dumb for hanging myself in the first place, but here I am stuck here, and I'm just going to let you know that I'm here. So, yeah. All
right. Well, obviously it didn't stop there. Things continued in your life, right? What are some of the other experiences that you've had?
A really interesting experience. There's been a number of them, and I hope it's okay to say it here, but I wrote a book, and I'm hoping to actually release it sometime in the future, but it has all of these stories in it. But there was one case where I was of all things, I was working on a virtual and AI device to utilize hardware and biospheres for the Department of Defense. And so I was going to a show in San Francisco with a colleague of mine, and that show is called Spy. I know it's not like James Bond stuff. It's photonics and stuff like that.
Sure, Mark.
So so he showed up at my house to go over what we were going to talk about, what kind of presentation we were going to put together, because we were going to leave the next day to go to San Francisco and to go to this show. So we went over all this stuff, and then he left. And then I got up and I went to the master bedroom, and well, I'm not going to say, a feeling that we get to the side where there's somebody there and you see through the corner of your eye, there's somebody there. I turned, and sitting in the middle of mine and my wife's bed is this girl. She's like Indian style, sitting in between our pillows, like right on the king size bed. She had some of her hair in front, but you could see that it was a girl, and she had tattered clothing, but the clothing looked like it was either like dirty or burned or something. And I like looked for a moment. I almost got kind of big around, and I turned the other way, and I thought in my head, "Who are you?" And I heard the name Elizabeth. I turned back, and she was gone. So I was like, "Well, she's gone." I didn't feel her anymore around, and so I went to my thing with it, and the next day with my my colleague, and his name is Jeff, and we went up to the top floor to have dinner up on top of the hotel, and I'm telling him this story. I'm saying, right after you left, I went. His eyeballs are about this big around the whole time I'm talking to him, and he's like, I said, "What's the matter?" There's this story. He says, "Look, Mark," he says, "I'm a skeptic, but let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you a story, and then you're going to understand why I look this way." He said, "I bought a house in Franklin, Tennessee. It was an old antebellum home, Civil War home. It needed work. And I bought it because I had just gotten married. And so I'm working on this house, and weird stuff kept happening in this house. And he says, "I'm a skeptic. I wasn't thinking, hey, there's ghosts in here. I'm just thinking there's just really weird stuff happening in this house." One day he pulled down the wall where they covered up a old fireplace, one of those really big old antebellum home fireplaces where you can just about walk into them, like Harry Potter going right way. And yeah. So he finally, after all this stuff was happening, his wife started seeing this girl at their house. And he was like, skeptic or not, this is just really messed up. And so somebody told him to go and look up a local psychic a medium in the area. And this person went to that antebellum home and said, "There's a girl here. She's about 12 years old. She's taken a liking to you. You're in there singing while you're painting or whatever. And she took a liking to you, and she likes to hang with you." She said she backed up into the fireplace. Back in the 1800s, her dress caught fire and she died in this house.
Wow.
And when you opened up the fireplace, you opened up that whole event again. And she said, "And I'm hearing the name Elizabeth." And so
boom,
he started seeing this girl at other locations. Apparently she attached herself to him. And when he came over to our house, she must have saw our children and said, "Oh, there's other children here. And so I think I'm going to hang out here for a while." And so, but what happened is when I was in San Francisco, my wife saw her and my daughter saw her and explained what she looked like to me. My wife said, well, she walked out of the bedroom and looked, and we had this pocket door going to the bathroom on the side. She was standing at the pocket door of the bathroom looking right at my wife, and it like freaked her out. It's like, and my daughter saw her, I believe it was in the living room. But anyway, that was one of the crazier stories of spirits traveling and hanging out. So.
Very cool. Speaking of traveling and hanging out and spirits, I'm going to be at a special event this weekend. Hey, you, Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and surrounding areas, come see me at Hillview Manor. There are still some tickets available, and there are prices for every budget. It is going to be a Q&A, meet and greet. We'll get a tour, and we'll get to investigate Hillview Manor together. I would love to see you there. April 5th, 2025. Get information at darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. For all of you always complaining, how come you never come to the East Coast, Dave? I'll be in Newcastle, Pennsylvania this Saturday, and I hope to see you. Come on out, spend some time with me. Hold tight. We'll be back. We've got more with Mark Lanoue, doppelgängers, and more on tap right here at the Paranormal 60.
Are you feeling lost, stressed, wondering if Mercury is ruining your life again, or the universe is just ghosting you? Well, you're not alone. At Love and Lotus Tarot, I keep it real. No crystal balls, no woohoo, just honest, grounded guidance to help you navigate life's chaos. Whether you need clarity on love, career, or just anything that feels like a mess, I've got you. Here's something really cool. In between tarot sessions with me, I just put out this new journal book, your very own purge journal. Don't hang on to all that angst and all that stress and all that anger. Get rid of it. Whether it's valid or not, you still have that emotion just eating away at you. So purge them onto paper, scream it, shout it, get it out. They're available right now on Amazon. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description below. Or just visit me at lovelotustarot.com and purchase your purge journal there. Visit lovelotustarot.com to book a reading, check out some of the new merch, and find the insight you've been searching for. Because let's be honest, therapy is expensive and my cards are way cooler anyways. So head on over to lovelotustarot.com now and let's figure out this thing called life together.
And we're back. This is your home for the very best in paranormal talk radio. You can see us live Monday and Wednesday nights right here on the YouTubes, or you can listen anytime by subscribing to Paranormal 60. That is the podcast name and the network name. When you subscribe to my podcast, you get an entire week's worth of great programming, so check it out for yourself. Mark Lanoue, our guest this evening, musician, innovator, inventor, friend, and paranormal experiencer. I know the last couple of minutes are going to fly by on us, Mark. You've talked to us about quite a few different things, but now you had a strange encounter with what people would refer to as a doppelganger. Can you explain to us a little bit about this and maybe set the scenario up?
Yeah, I've actually never had that happen to me before, so it was really completely out of the blue and really freaked me out. But it was actually my wife who saw it first. So my wife looked up and she saw our son going from the front door coming in and heard his voice. And then she said, "What's he doing outside?" Because it was pretty late and it was dark outside. And so I got up to go check to make sure it wasn't something else. And I heard his voice and I saw him walking around the corner. Of course, I didn't see his face. I just saw him walking around the corner. And I went back into the room and I was thinking to myself, and she said, "That's odd for him to be out there." I said, "Wait a minute." And I went back around. I went to his room. He's sitting there all with his headphones on and everything else, playing some video game on his computer. And he looks at me like, "What?" You know, it's late at night. It's dark outside. What the hell are you doing? So I asked him, I said, "Have you been out of your room?" He says, "No, I've been here the whole time. I'm playing my game. I'm trying to play with my friend here, and you're messing my whole whole virtual world up over here." And so I walked back in there, and my wife was like, I saw him. It was him. And I was like, so I grabbed the holy water. I actually have this holy water. I did a lot of travels in my life when I was at NASA and doing all this building. And I actually went to Israel to where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and all that kind of stuff. So I got all the holy water and all that kind of stuff over there. And I went around and went to all the entrances and everywhere else and basically, said prayers and said, "You're not allowed in here. You're not welcome in here ever again," blah, blah, blah. Did that all the way around the house. But that really freaked me out. It was like, I've never, ever seen anything like that. I mean, spirits are one thing, but that's kind of,
Well, now let's dive into the science of this. I have two questions before I want to let you go here tonight, talking about that. And I was interested on this doppelganger because I've got a take. A lot of people say if you see somebody that it's, if I see Mark Lanoue walk in my front door and then, 5 seconds later and you go downstairs and then I walk upstairs and you're in your room, it's something trying to trick me. It's trying to look like you and gain access. Now, we know that residual hauntings are a thing, right? They're unintelligent hauntings. It's like a loop in time. Sure. We know that every place has a magnetic resonance to it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
We as human beings have our own resonance, our own
vibration, resonance.
Right. Yeah. So do you believe that what that was something malevolent, something trying to take on your son's guys? Or do you think that you might have just caught a reflection either from the future or the past of seeing your son come in talking like he normally would, and you just happen to be at the right resonance at the right time and caught that moment?
I think that's probably more the case here because I didn't feel anything malevolent at all. I didn't feel anything. There was no sensitivity of feeling anything. It was just the freaking out that he's there, you hear the voice, and then you go there and he hasn't been out there. So, and that's a path he takes, whether it's to take the trash out or go to school or whatever. So it is possible that it was just a recorded event. And there are so many doors, so many avenues, well,
that
things you can,
being an audio, right? You take a tape, a clean tape, you record on it. And even if you degauss it, erase it, and tape over it again, there's a chance that some of the artifact of that previous recording could bleed through.
There's a big chance of that happening. Yes.
Right. So it's interesting that if we're in this magnetic place, in a magnetic time, in our magnetic bodies, and we see these moments kind of play out, that it's really kind of that threadbare part of tape. It's just overlapping recordings that are bleeding through on different tracks, right?
Sure.
So then that's one concept of what we could be dealing with when we deal with a residual or a doppelganger effect. My other question was, as somebody who is deeply into audio and understands audio, and obviously being in the NASA Hall of Fame for inventors and innovation, science. One thing I've always been curious about, and I was hoping you could shed some light, when we talk about electronic voice phenomena, the recording of these disembodied voices in reportedly haunted locations. I've talked to people, engineers and audio technicians, and I say, how is the recorder hearing it? Well, it's because it's playing at a level that you can't audibly hear. Well, then I think if that's the case, when I play back the recording, I shouldn't hear it either. Because if it's recording in an audible zone I can't hear, upon replay, I shouldn't hear it either, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's more of an energy base. It's like construct, right? When you have a camera, for example, we have something called a RAM DAC, and we have something called audio to digital converters. And even with sound, for example, I can bounce sound off a wall or into a room and it comes back. I can't see the color, but I can reconstruct the objects in the room on the basis of digital construct. It's the same thing here. I think that there's energy there that's constructing these things and then placing them into that form. I don't necessarily think it's an audio, because when we speak,
audio technicians
you can break this up. You can
audio
break
technicians will say that EVP sometimes is at the high end or the very low end of audible hearing, and that they'll notice those things. But again, the problem I've had is, and if that's where it lives, I shouldn't hear it on the recording either, because my ears are still only going to hear what the vibration is that I can hear.
I can give you a good example to support your theory.
Okay.
When they go to look for infrasound, they listen for what? Clicks. That's not the sound of infrasound. That's an interference. There's a difference between interference and an actual audio sound. It's giving you some interpretation of that sound based on what you have. And so there's lots of, like, you can take something and break it up into a million pieces, and there's different ways you can put that together through sensitivity analysis, and you can build something out of that. I mean, and so that's the way I look at it. It's we can't understand completely what they're doing on the other side on the basis of energy and how that then affects the things that we have in order to get something across to you. And so, that's kind of the way to look at it.
Well, I've often thought too, right? It's a record, an old LP of vinyl. That needle hits and it engraves the sound. I look at it, I'm like, how do these little swirls on a record have Mark Lanoue's highs and Dave Schrader's bass voice and the guitar and the tambourine and the drums, when all it is just a line on a record, right? And I think, God, how is that possible? Yeah. But it's because it's recording it in a way that vibrations are really what's being
little grooves in there that you can't see with your eyes.
Right. And then I thought, okay, so in recording EVP, we're listening in an audio spectrum. We're not listening in a magnetic spectrum.
That's
If
right.
ghosts are in a magnetic field and a recorder's recording a magnetic field, it's going to hear that voice. It's going to be impressed upon. So that may be what makes the EVP, because we're not hearing it audibly. We're hearing a version of it, but it's something that's being impressed onto it.
That's
like,
exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yes. I was saying maybe up here, but
yeah,
but it's the same thing. Yes, I agree with you. I think it's affected through, because even like photons, when I image that's all electromagnetics. You're split, like grass, for example. We see grass as green because it's reflecting 555 nanometers of photonic light at green. The plant's not using it because it only uses blue and red in its Krebs cycle in order to be a healthy plant.
Well, with that known, we can detect green because what it's actually bouncing back to us is green. It's the only color that's not there, right? We're seeing the blue on my shirt because this is everything but blue. So that's how we're perceiving this. So then my question is, if a spirit is devoid of true detail, colored detail, couldn't we then theoretically create something that could see, how do I want to put this, something that's not there? That
colorize it, huh?
Right. I mean, shouldn't that theoretically be there? Because if it's devoid of anything physical, that means there's something there too. So something has to come back off of it.
Right. There's energy there, and it's all in how we interpret that energy, how we pull that energy in, and then how we use analog to digital conversion, or just conversion of light, conversion of wave, whatever, and bring it in and convert that to something we can see. Now that's going to take a lot more than just talking about it, but there's something there. There's energy. There should be some way to unmix that. And
well, I've got this friend of mine who's kind of a big shot, and he's got these NASA awards, so I'm going to see if I can get him to work on it. Mark, thank you. Thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate you. I know it's tough. I know that you left your wife at the hospital and you came to join us on the show. And please send her our love and our best, and let her know that the army of Darklings are praying for her and sending energy and healing her way.
I sure will. It was great to be on with you.
Take care of yourself too. Yeah. Take care of yourself as well, my friend. You need to stay strong. A childhood marked by tragedy, a life shadowed by the supernatural, and a passion for uncovering the truth beyond the veil. Mark Lanoue continues to explore the paranormal, not only through his own experiences, but through science, song, and soul. If you've ever wondered whether our loved ones linger or if something else sometimes wears our face, tonight's tales should give you pause. And may the darkness of this world be just a little brighter with the information that we share here. Until next time, my darklings, stay safe, stay curious, and keep your eyes open, because the next knock at your door might not be who you think it is. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is my Paranormal 60.